Hello, everybody. This is Coffee with Sandy. The mission of Coffee with Sandy is really truly to bring hope to others because we all have pivotal moments in our life. And I like to actually highlight some of the things that we may have gone through in our lives that we never thought we'd be where we were at, that actually helped us to shift into something different. And I have the pleasure of meeting with Suzanne this afternoon. So thank you, Suzanne, for coming in. If you want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Okay. My name's Suzanne Hogan. I am a realtor with EXP. I can do everything from the first-time home buyer to investor to somebody relocating across the world, and anything in between. I have two amazing children, and I love to travel, and I am a huge Florida State Seminole fan, and will be fortunate to travel to Dublin in a couple weeks
to
watch them play.
Very cool.
Thank
you.
you.
Awesome. So, first question always is when you were in second grade or, grade schoolish.
Okay.
Do you know what you wanted to be?
No, I didn't. Well, I had visions of being a veterinarian, but that quickly went by the wayside.
Oh, yeah? Why? Because you didn't take care of your dog when you were little?
No, I did. I don't know. I actually, up to high school, I was actually a athletic trainer. I kind of had more thought switching then into the humans versus the pets, but we'll just say some of the blood and guts kind of grossed me out, and I didn't have the patience to go through that many years of schooling, but,
okay.
or the finance.
Right. Okay, so then, so that was kind of grade schoolish through high school that you had that desire. So what did you, were you in sports when you were in high school?
I was on the swim team in my high school.
Very cool. And did you win awards or?
I made it to conference.
Good.
But I wasn't, like state worthy.
Yeah. So in other words, you were like me. You had aspirations to be in the Olympics, but.
Right. I think we all did when we were little, and you watched it, back then, especially when that took over all three channels,
yes.
For several weeks at a time.
Yeah. I wanted to be like a gymnast. That's what I wanted, because every time the Olympics came on, not, because that was my aspirations as a young kid. I would just, it's like every time I saw the Olympics, I'm like, I can do cartwheels and somersaults. But we also had that in school too, where we had to do a floor plan, do that floor activity. And it's just kind of like, boy, we moved everything in our living room, everything all the way around. Mom could probably even attest to this today because it's like the coffee table moved everything. She knew what we were going to do.
I wasn't very agile, so that was one of the things I made sure my daughter, when she was young, you're going to know how to do a cartwheel, because I wanted to be a cheerleader, but I could not do that because one of the requirements was to do a cartwheel and a round off. I had the big mouth, I had the, other talents, but I wanted to make sure that she was able to do whatever she wanted to and not be held back because she never learned to do a cartwheel and round off.
That's awesome. And see, and I never could get quite flat with the splits. But
back then I could do them. Definitely not now.
Yeah. Right now, I don't think I'd ever want to anymore.
No.
It was, back then, it was kind of cool. Now it's like, oh yeah, I grunt when I get in and out of the car.
Sounds familiar, especially lately with my surgery.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. So, growing up, did you have siblings?
I had one brother.
Okay. Were you guys close?
Pretty much. He was 4.5 years younger than me. So when you're young, that's a really big gap. He was always my baby brother. But then, when I went out, like in high school, he was still
he was in
elementary.
Yeah. So I'm sure that made things a little bit different. And where was it that you actually grew up?
I lived my entire life until about 8 years ago in Florida. But when I was I guess in elementary school, I was in Hollywood, Florida, and then kind of worked my way up and over and lived in a good part of the state from time to time.
Very cool. Well, I guess it must have been, I'm sure that I've asked you that before.
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, I didn't realize that it was all in Florida where
Yeah.
you were at. Oh, that's great. And you love Colorado.
I do.
What brought you out here?
My now ex's job. But I had friends that were like, oh, move back, and I really do. It's beautiful. I mean, I'm a beach girl, but when I wasn't rich enough to live close enough to the beach. I mean, here we drive to the grocery store and I can see the mountains, or I can see them out of my office. So I do enjoy that, and I don't miss the humidity or the mosquitoes that we had there.
All the bugs.
Yes.
Okay, so you grew up in Florida and you came out here.
Yes.
So kind of a pivotal moment for you when you actually did make that move out here. So you came. When did you come out? What year do you remember?
It was a week before Christmas 2016.
Wow.
I had
right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a challenge with 2 kids in high school, but we wanted them to be able to start the new semester out here. And I had just started the year before started my business in Florida, and then was told basically we were moving to Colorado. So I got to redo everything out here.
So your real estate business out there.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And that's what I was going to say is that you have a place out in Florida now.
I do. I live here, but I still want to have a little bit of Florida. And since my son's going to school there, and I have family and friends, and it's a great investment. So I rent it out both short term and midterm. That way I can always sneak there. If it was long term, then it would just be an investment and not a place I could use.
Yeah, right. And where is that located?
It's in St. Augustine, Florida. It's less than 10 minutes from the beach and less than 10 minutes from the historical district.
Oh, that's cool.
Has a nice big yard if people want to go visit with their kids and dogs and whatever.
Yeah. Very cool. So your family, when you were growing up, did you celebrate holidays?
Yes, we were Christian, so we celebrated all the Christian holidays, and just really enjoyed it. My mom always made the holidays special.
Did you have any favorite meals or anything that or any specific holiday that you liked the most?
Christmas. Pretty much per my request, we would always have turkey for usually both Christmas and Thanksgiving. Being in Florida, we did not have much of our family down there, so a lot of times it might have just been us. So she tried to make it special,
as she could,
even though it was just the 4 of us, like normal. So,
and then did they come up here at all to Colorado, or
no? My mom had passed back in '96, and my dad started getting the early signs of dementia about the time that I moved out here, and he didn't want to travel, even though, I grew up traveling. He worked for the airlines, but I really think he was kind of afraid at that point, not wanting to admit that he actually had, because, when you don't live with someone, you don't necessarily realize the beginnings of a disease like that.
Well, even when you do, or you see them frequently enough, it's not a trigger, because it's more like old age.
Right.
And they keep forgetting things. But yeah. So, and I understand that. So you got the travel bug from him. He was in the airlines. Did you get to go a lot of places because of that?
We did. I was very fortunate. Whereas a lot of families would do road trips or camping, we flew across the country. I mentioned I lived in Florida. We probably went to California at least 3 times, Oregon, Hawaii, Alaska. He made a good point of getting me to those far places.
The places that you wouldn't go to as an adult if...
Exactly. Knowing that sometime I would be able to, drive to the other locations or whatever if need be. And
mostly in the United States and nowhere in Europe?
Actually, I was went to was it Holland and shoot, I can't even, Switzerland when I was 7 years old. Obviously, as a 7 year old, the scenery didn't really interest me, but Holland was cool because of the wooden shoes and the outfits they had.
Yeah.
And then we were fortunate enough to go to Australia, Ireland, and England while I was still living at home.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, and because of that whole travel, you now also too are a travel agent or travel advisor. I mean, I don't know
That
how
is
they
correct.
actually talk, what the right title is.
Technically, nowadays, the politically correct, and because we do advise more than just that is the proper term. I am an associate of Andrea's with Cruise Planners.
Yeah.
And
And you do much more than just cruises.
oh yes, can be everything from just someone wants to go, city hop in Europe, or they want to do an all-inclusive, or even universal tickets. I was able to help a family this summer save some money for their son's senior trip or whatever. So that was nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, also too, as a travel advisor, the whole thing is that when something happens with a trip, that's where you come in to try to fix it instead of, like if I would try to do things on my own, which of course, I'm very independent.
Yes, you are.
But it is kind of nice to have somebody else take on that extra stress, because if I'm caught somewhere,
Yes.
I would have no idea where to look, because I'm on my cell phone, and it gets very frustrating sometimes when you have to try to find things.
And we do have some resources and things that the general public doesn't. It recently, with the whole airline shutting down with the technical issue, that was a time that I think people were glad they probably had a travel advisor. And then even just up front, myself or advisors in general, we do all the work. Mm-hmm. And, we'll give you a couple options based on what you've said. So you can spend your time doing your job or just having fun with your family. And then you make a couple, a choice, and we get it booked, and you don't pay anything extra for my services.
Yeah, you get paid through the service, the things that you book.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of almost the misconception.
Yes, it
is. With travel advisors, that you pay an extra fee because of using a travel advisor. And we know that's not true. We also know that's not true with realtors as well. So there's a lot of things that are out there right now that, are all about, the just stirring the pot. And yet it's all really about communication.
It definitely is. And realtors do a lot more than just get you under contract. It's the negotiation. It's the recently I have a listing right now where I'm having to get sewer resources, roofing issues, and going out there and meeting the people, and the general public may not know who to turn to get those resources, especially, like, for example, this is an older couple, so we're doing everything the old-fashioned way, signing.
Yeah. And that's what I appreciate so much about you, is that you have a lot of patience, and you have a lot of information that you can give people. The resources that you have built in your sphere because of your networking, but also too because of all the other things that you do. You and I met, gosh, where was it? Was it
Actually, it was I think a mutual friend of ours from the Tri-Lakes Chamber. When I was new to the Springs, he said, "You need to meet Sandy." And then later on, I realized you were actually there. But that was a great experience. Wonderful introduction from John. So been able to build a professional connection as well as a friend.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate that too. So thank you. So after high school, what was your next step from high school if you did not go into what your first initial dream job
Well,
was?
somewhere along the way, I guess, between my negotiation and arguing, I decided I was going to get into law.
Oh
So I
wow.
ended up got a scholarship to the community college. So I stayed there for 2 years, and then went up to Florida State in Tallahassee for 2 years and got my bachelor's. But then I did not go on after, I just didn't want to go on to school. And
But you got your bachelor's.
I got my bachelor's.
So you did complete it.
I completed
You were
it.
stubborn enough to keep
Yes.
moving forward.
And I got into the business world for a little bit, just never found the right job until after I got my master's in public administration. Then I had an amazing job at the Orlando Sentinel, working in their marketing department, and had wonderful bosses there.
You worked in marketing.
I did.
Wow.
But things had changed a lot after my daughter, I decided to, be a stay-at-home mom. So when I was going back into work 15 years later or whatever, marketing was a little different. So that was when I got into real estate.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Wow. So all kinds of pivotal moments in your life.
Yes.
What is one of the things that if you could change from, I don't know, anywhere from where your memory begins to, even now, is there anything that what you would go back to kind of change the direction? I know that we all say, if I changed anything, I wouldn't have, but it's like,
Right.
Are there things that you sit back and think, wow, if I would have known, if I knew now, or what I knew then, or what I know now, if I would have known then what I know now?
From time to time, kind of the fact that I did not go into law. I feel like that would have been a good, I just feel like I could have made a more difference in the world. I mean, I do feel like everybody can make a small difference, but I felt like maybe that way, because I would have been a prosecutor, not the defense attorney.
No doubt in your mind, huh?
No.
Well, and I think that because of what you probably had learned through your bachelor's, that because what was your minor in then?
My undergrad was in business.
Okay.
With a emphasis on marketing.
Okay, so you learned how to negotiate,
Yes.
right? And so even though you didn't move forward with the law stuff, you still learned a lot of
Oh yeah.
how to actually form your argument. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just assuming that that's what.
Pretty much. I mean, there are definitely skills to negotiating.
Yeah.
As long as you do things in a calm manner. Which,
Right.
I guess is another regret that I haven't always been as calm as I should be.
Well, do you have certain things that you do to actually get you out of a rut, or, take your blood pressure down? Because, my son, and I know I do, my sons do, they find their favorite music and that's what they listen to. And that's what I kind of do is. Mine is,
That's a good
I
idea.
always mention it. It's always Barry Manilow or the Backstreet Boys or, stuff that brings me back to, a time. Maybe my life wasn't 100% perfect at that time, but, it just brings me back where it's like, oh, yeah, I did love that. Do you have something like that?
I mean, I do kind of will crank up the music if I need to get out of one mood and into another. But sometimes just, going for a walk, or, back in the olden days would be, to go to the gym, do an aerobics class or something, or some karate. But
Oh, you did karate.
I did a couple different times. One was taekwondo, one I can't remember the other, but it was a good way to get out energy and so forth. And,
Yeah.
In a healthy manner. Back in the day, a trip to the beach would always kind of be a good mood breaker too.
Oh,
just
yeah.
a walk on the beach.
Yeah.
Now it's, I guess, having to look at the mountains instead.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's the whole thing. I used to actually, that is one thing, and since I've been in Colorado, I used to actually take a drive, and I would find water, and I'd just go and sit and open all the windows of my car and listen to it. But now everybody's at the water. It's
right.
Monument Lake and Palmer Lake. There's so many borders out there, that get
It's
out
not
on the
as
water.
peaceful
Yeah,
as what you and I are kind of envisioning.
yeah. But the ocean has always been something that I've loved to just sit and listen to, because it's so active.
Right.
But the first time I was in the ocean, I didn't realize how you really need to be aware of your space.
You do.
Because I was in Hawaii when I noticed that I went in here and I ended up like a mile that way just by walking with the tide. Every time it pushed me, I would just, adjust, because I didn't want to fall in, and I was only an ankle deep.
Wow.
But yeah,
you still got moved that much.
Yeah.
And undertows are something that a lot of people that aren't familiar with the beaches or whatever can find themselves in. So it is something to be aware of if you're new to ocean surroundings, I guess, for lack of another word.
Yep. Yeah. Are you an extrovert or an introvert? Have you ever described yourself?
It's really hard to say. I used to always think I was an introvert because I was very shy in high school and, that kind of thing. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I know I like the energy that you get when being around people, which I know is a quality of an extrovert. I still don't like speaking in public or that kind of thing, but so I'd say I probably lean a little more towards extrovert nowadays, but maybe somewhat in between.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of recharge being by myself. I do like to be out with people, but there's a cutoff point where it's like all of a sudden I'm like, okay, there's too many people. There's too, my head is going to explode because there's too much noise.
Yeah, I don't like crowds, but if it's just out with a group of people or that kind of thing, a one-on-one with someone is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, great. So, do you know what makes you smile?
Being around people I like, being with my kids, traveling, just seeing new things, baby animals, the,
baby animals,
my kitty, just nice things.
Yeah. Are cats your favorite animal?
No, probably a dog. I always grew up with dogs, but in college I could not have one in my apartment, and I had a friend whose cat was having it, so I did get one there. That was my first cat. And we had one up until my son was going into kindergarten, and our cat had died, so I was able to get a dog again, and that was great. But I did lose them both in the divorce, and looking forward to getting a new one.
Yeah. And now that you have your house here.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
it's harder to travel and things with the dog than it is with a cat. Although camping you can do with the dog.
Yes. Yeah, and you have your camper. Don't you rent that out too?
I do. I bought it so I could
see all this entrepreneur stuff.
Could have fun with it, but I figured there's no use it just sitting empty. So I rent it out so it'll pay for itself, and have been very fortunate the past month and a half to keep it rented when I'm not using it. So we'll see what happens going forward.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I forget that you even have that. And is it a pull along, or I don't know, or is it
pull behind?
Okay.
It has a queen size bed, set of bunk beds, and full kitchen, bath, that kind of thing. So it's just big enough, for two or a family with younger kids type of thing.
And that's the greatest thing about Colorado is that there's so many places.
Right. We've a couple times I've taken it out just for a night, and I feel like come back, and that's like I was totally recharged just being
Yeah.
gone a day and a half or whatever. We didn't. I took it out for 4th of July and went up to Wyoming. That was the first time I took it out longer, and that was great.
Yeah, I bet. Do you have any big influencers in your life? Or who has been your biggest influence?
Growing up, it was my aunt, but I really try not to focus on one person. I mean, I try to get information from a lot of different people. And
What was it about your aunt?
I don't know, she was a single mom, young, so she was, in that dating scene during, the whole disco, whatever, and she passed me down her clothes, and she just was always, kind of like the big sister, but yet I could see her, she bought her first home by herself and just different things, so it was a little more touchable, so to speak, than, mom and dad are, your mom and dad, and you always expect certain things, but so she was a great influence in my early life.
I would say that too about my mom's youngest sister.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She just, every time she went out to California, and so every time she came to visit, it wasn't every year, I don't remember, but every time she did come to visit, and David too, her youngest brother, they both are out in California, so when they come to visit, it's just kind of like, ooh. But different perspectives too,
Right.
of mundane, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? There's other people around. And you can be in a different state. You're not in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it seems as though you've had a lot of changes, a lot of shifts in your life,
Yes.
and yet you really still have a great positive outlook.
Well, thank you.
I think that from what I see, you take different things, like even your opportunity that you have with cruise planners. And then when you got your house out in Florida for, your little getaway,
Right.
your little beach getaway. And then also too, with the camper, I didn't even,
Well, thank you.
it's just, it's great. And then, to know a lot of the same people that we,
Yes.
get out in the community with, and it's always so great to be able to walk into a room and know that, oh, Suzanne's here. Good.
It does help. Going back to that introvert, extrovert, if I know I've got a friend there, it's much easier to walk in a room than, and, do that networking or whatever you need to do than if you're in a new place all by yourself. That is still a little hard.
Yeah. Well, I like your positive outlook on a lot of things. But has anybody ever given you words that they could describe you? Do you have like 3 words that people would describe you?
That's hard.
Fighter?
Probably. You don't mess with, those people close to me. I will go above and beyond and do whatever it takes to protect and, look out for, anybody I care about. So that would be a good term.
Yeah. And I think you're positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's 2.
Yeah. Here, I'll just help you along.
Okay.
I also think too that you are an influencer.
Well, I wouldn't have thought that,
So,
but thank you.
Well, you make people feel welcome,
Okay.
and when that happens, that's a huge influence on what you're doing for people in the community.
When you put it that way,
So.
then yes.
It's amazing what we don't believe about ourselves, right? Do you have a bucket list?
A lot of it involves traveling. I want to do a sailboat cruise in Greece. I want to do parts of Italy I haven't been. I want to do one of those above the water hotels, little like a cottage type of thing.
Yeah.
Have no idea, it doesn't matter where it is, just want to do that. want those are probably the top,
Yeah. That's really great.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Yes,
I really
thank you.
appreciate it. It's been great chatting with you. And
yeah, so I really am grateful for you to be able to come in and sit down with me and share a little bit of your story. I know that there's a lot more that we could talk about, and maybe that will be another time. So thank you everybody for joining us. I am Sandy Shook. I am a mortgage advisor. Know that I have the capability of setting up plans for you. I can actually look at your finances, try to figure out a plan for you if you don't own a house. I totally sounded like Minnesota there. If you don't own a house, or otherwise, if you do own a house and you kind of don't have a lot of money at the end of your month, I would love to take a look at what we might be able to do as far as refinancing. And just like Suzanne, to be able to get into an investment property or that vacation property, would love to look at something like that for you. So reach out to me if you want to take a look. I am no pressure. I can tell you what my opinion is and would probably recommend somebody else to take a look too. So, and Suzanne, if you can let people know how to reach you.
They can email me at suzanne.hogan@exprealty.com, or they can call me, text me 352-978-9944.
Sounds good.
I wanted to say how good you were, and you didn't give me an opportunity to do that.
No, because this isn't about me. Anyway.
You call Sandy. She's very
Okay. La la la. Go ahead. Thank you, everybody.